the Seattle Seahawks. They finally listened to you, Sam. They go guard. Gray Zabel in the first round at pick 18. They had 2 seconds, maneuvered the draft board a little bit. They trade up to get Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina, with the 3rd pick of the second round. They go Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo with the 18th pick of the second round. They go QB Jalen Milroe in the 3rd round. And then they don't pick until the 5th. 3 5th-rounders, a 6th, and 3 7ths. Some of the highlights there include Riley Mills, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame in the 5th. Torrey Horton, the wide receiver out of Colorado State in the 5th. Bryce Cabledew from Kansas, kind of a tackle guard, athletic player in the 6th. Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami. They get him in the 7th. And Ricky White III, I know he is a Check the Mic favorite in the chat. They get him toward the end of the 7th round. A special team star from UNLV, just a baller, gritty dude you want on your team. So high volume draft here for the Seahawks and some of the more interesting picks in the entire draft, I would say. What were your thoughts on Seattle?
Yeah, one of my favorite drafts. I think was it the Chiefs I was calling my favorite draft in the entire NFL? This is right up there with it. Honestly, is. Those would be maybe 1 and 2. Phenomenal. Like, okay, let's start up top, not just because they did the thing that I've been calling for them to do for a year now. They didn't overthink it. They said, look, philosophically, we do not believe in drafting interior offensive linemen in the middle of the 1st round. We believe it's not worth it, and those guys can come back, and we'll get them in the 3rd round. It's much better value and blah, blah, blah. And I think that might be correct, right? I think you can make a completely compelling argument that is true. But if you've spent a year now trying to fix that interior offensive problem, it didn't work, and you're sitting there again with a really, really good interior offensive lineman on the board, just take it. Like, don't, bend your principles a little bit. Sometimes need matches the position in the 1st round, and just grab the guy and don't overthink it. Gray Zabel was dominant at the Senior Bowl for the entire week. He was the best player there at 3 different positions, all of which were new to him. He was a college tackle who was being asked to play left guard, right guard, and center, sometimes snap to snap, and was dominant consistently against all-star competition every day, every practice, all the way through. Plug that guy in day 1, pick your favorite spot for him to play, and it immediately upgrades your offensive line. So I love that position. I love the fact they didn't overthink it. They didn't try and get too cute. They just took the best player for their biggest need. 2nd round, Nick Emanwari and Elijah Arroyo. I like both those players. I think they can both make an impact. Arroyo, I love his receiving skills. I mean, they were talking about him as a guy that could be, a top 10 type of talent based off his tape. It's just that he's had injuries and there's not that much of it. I don't know if I go, quite as far as they were going in their own press conference, but I sort of generally applaud the principle. I think they're right. He's got elite level capability. He's just battled a lot of injuries and has a small sample size because of it. Milroe in the 3rd, Torrey Horton later on with the 5th that they got him. As you said, Ricky White, but also Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez in the 7th round is a ridiculous deal.
And Torrey Horton. A lot of players that you liked all across the draft here. The Zabel pick at 18, I do wonder how much Tyler Booker going up so high. I don't think Seattle was ever in the Tyler Booker sweepstakes, so to speak. He's not a fit for what they're going to do under Kubiak, I don't think. But I do wonder just Booker going higher, if that was an indicator, hey, maybe we wanted to wait on the guard and get him somewhere in the 2nd, but we're just going to do it now. Or if this was always the plan to get Gray Zabel. But yeah, he'll step in and start. I also wonder how much they just said, because we have the 2-2s and we have some ammo to move up to get Emanwari. Like, again, like if they switch this order, if they got Emanwari at 18, there was a point in this whole process where that didn't seem wild. This is the most athletic safety we've seen maybe ever. And I think he's a good football player. He's not great. He's a good football player and super athletic. Adding him into the secondary, runs a 4.38, had the 43-inch vertical, crazy broad, just flies around. He is I think, short area zone savant as far as his range and ball skills and everything that Emanwari can do there. So I get that pick. Zabel's going to start. Emanwari adds that athleticism into the secondary. Arroyo adds a lot of speed to the tight end position, even though I don't think he's a very good blocker. So at the press conference, they were saying some of their coaches liked him as an ex-receiver.
Yeah.
That Arroyo's so good he could play receiver. So they must feel great about that pick. And they might not even have him as a true tight end. It might just be big slot, which is fine. I mean, the more you keep him away from, tight splits, I think the better. And Arroyo becomes even more of a pass game weapon here.
Yeah, I think that's kind of crazy, the ex-wide receiver stuff. And
Yeah,
I've been burned by the Kyle Pitts thing to not even think about that for any tight end ever again. But it does like sort of let you know what they think about him as a receiving talent. And I think from like directionally, I'm on board, right? That idea that he can be a special receiving weapon for this team, I'm right there with it.
Let's discuss those two other players that you and I both think are steals here, Torrey Horton and Damian Martinez, and then circle back to the Milroe conversation. But Horton was like a fringe top 10 receiver for both of us, got injured last year. I think if he had stayed healthy, maybe he's a top 10 receiver in this draft, in our rankings and other rankings. And then Damian Martinez, similarly, dude's tough to tackle, and to get him in the 7th round. I'm not saying Damian Martinez is going to be as good as Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins or anybody else, but when the depth of this running back class, like if Damian Martinez became a really productive NFL player, you're not surprised. And that would be the argument for waiting, because a guy like that is available in the 7th round with this deep of a running back class.
Yeah, I mean, he's buried on this depth chart in particular, so it's tough to sort of say, well, he's going to be an impact playmaker for them. But like the fact that they picked him in the 7th round, just because I'm sure they looked at it and like, this is insane value. We're going to take him, even though we already have a couple of really good running backs on the depth chart already. I mean, Damian Martinez is a really good player. He's physically close to those guys like Omarion Hampton and Quinshon Judkins that went at the top of the draft. He's powerful. He's nimble. He's quick. He's been successful in multiple different offenses, different programs at this stage. There's some, weird things in his tape that I don't love, but 7th round, I think it's an insane bargain. And yeah, if I was a team that was in desperate need of a starting caliber running back, like again, to take him in the 7th versus an Omarion Hampton in the 1st, I think is insane surplus value that you're adding. Torrey Horton, loved him as a receiver prospect. He's big, he's long, lean, sort of like a supersized body type of Devontae Smith, but he's like 6'3", 185 as opposed to 6 foot, 165. But it's that type of body. But he's got legitimate speed. He ran a 4.4 after coming back from that knee injury. I think if he'd have come out a year ago, he would have been a day 2 player based off what I'd seen from his 2023 tape. He's fast. He's got really good route running skills. He's got good run after the catch ability that I don't think he gets a ton of credit for. And I think he's a perfect fit complementary wise for the receivers they already have in JSN and Cooper Kupp. I think he could slot right in and sort of bring that missing, outside X receiver, downfield, perimeter threat and vertical threat, and his great hands as well, outside of one horrible clanging drop that would have been a touchdown. But a great value pick where they got him, and I love the stylistic fit for them as well.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. Yeah, I think Torrey Horton has a legit chance to compete. So they have Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp as their 1 and 2, but similar styled receivers, tighter split guys who could play inside and out. But yeah, Horton competing with Jake Bobo and Marquez Valdez-Scantling for playing time. I think there's
Marquez Valdez-Scantling in particular, like that's the role that he will take in this offense. And based off Marquez Valdez-Scantling's like career baseline at this point, Torrey Horton could absolutely jump him on that depth chart and take that role within the offense.
And Elijah Arroyo added to the tight end room with Noah Fant, who was a similar vertical tight end threat when he came out 5 or 6 years ago. They've added some athleticism, I think, to that offense and some speed there for Sam Darnold.
Yeah. And then the Jalen Milroe pick in the 3rd round. Love that as well. Like, number one, I think that's exactly around where Milroe should have gone. Like, the talk before the draft that he could sneak into the 1st round was always a little bit worrying to me. It's like, okay, I see the upside, but the tape doesn't say he belongs in the 1st round. But as a 3rd rounder, now you're talking about one of the most dynamic rushing threats at quarterback in the entire NFL, right? Like, I don't think he's as good as Lamar Jackson, but I think he's, the next rung down, which puts him with that incredibly high floor. in the Justin Fields type of world, right? Like he's that dynamic. And Justin Fields is 4 or 5 years into his career at this point and is still getting an opportunity because he can run, not because he's been anything as a passing quarterback yet, but because you can prop up an offense based off his running skill set. Milroe brings that to the table. He's got a good arm. He can read a defense. Like he can process. Now the decision making is spotty. The accuracy is spotty. Like the consistency is wild, and that, like, the downside of that causes major problems and already has at the college level. But as a developmental guy to bet on in the third round, I love that. And he's another guy who, you know, like Jalen Hurts, people are raving about the human being and the character and the attitude. Like, did you see the quotes from him when he was asked in the meetings, what does he need to work on, right? And he was like listing chapter and verse and all his weaknesses. And one of the NFL guys was like, are you not a little bit concerned about, you know, listing all the reasons that you're not good? And he was like, look, anyone that tells you that they don't have weaknesses is lying to your face, and they're insulting you because they think you don't know how to watch the tape. Like, it doesn't do anybody any good for me to act like these aren't real. I know what I need to work on. I'm going to be working on them because I want to be the best guy I can be. I mean, that's what you want a guy to be saying, right? That's maturity. That's smart. That's emotional maturity. And he's doing all the right things. Will he ever work out? Who knows? You know, just want to and attitude doesn't necessarily mean you'll be the best guy. But I'm at least willing to bet on a guy with that skill set who has that attitude.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about Milroe at this point. In part, it sounds like he crushed every single interview. I mean, just to bring up Shedeur for a minute, it sounds like he didn't. That stuff does matter, right? You're looking for these guys to come in and work and want to get better. It sounds like Milroe ticks that box. And then if you want to just understand the different levels of Milroe's play, you can go watch the first half against Georgia, where he was the offense. They built a whole offense around him. He was unstoppable as a runner, made some great throws down the field. He has a very good arm. And then he has the game against Tennessee, where his accuracy is all over the place. Decision-making is horrible. And I think my biggest concern for Milroe, as an athletic player, the way he is, and when he makes plays outside of structure, I don't think he's very good at it. Like, this is what Marcus Mariota had coming out. I thought Marcus Mariota was a very good runner, and I thought you could use him in the design run game quite a bit at the NFL level and get the most out of him there. But when he was outside of structure, I didn't think Mariota had great playmaking feel. I think Milroe's kind of like that. And so a lot of times you think, well, this guy's athletic, get him outside the pocket, he'll be great. Well, Josh Allen has great outside the pocket feel, and Patrick Mahomes has that, and other players might have that. I don't think Milroe has that yet. So he makes bad decisions. Like, he runs backwards into the end zone for a safety against Tennessee. He's inaccurate, makes bad decisions outside the pocket. So that's part of what's missing, I think, in Milroe's game. But as I said throughout the whole process, you can build an entire run game around him. That's a high floor offense where you can build the run game around him, and he's a threat every single time. And then you just kind of hope that the accuracy stuff develops. And now we have this recent history of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and some quarterbacks have improved. They've improved their accuracy, which it's not always completion percentage, but it shows up in completion percentage. They've improved at the NFL level. And if that hits for Milroe, Sam Darnold is only tied to the Seahawks for 1 year. He doesn't even have to figure it out in a year, even if Darnold's there for 2 years or 3 years. If you hit on Milroe as a third rounder by year 4, that's a huge win. And at worst, I think you have a backup. You have a backup who comes in that you could build a run game around, and he can win a few games for you as just a difficult to cover threat for the defense. So there's just a lot to like about this pick. In addition, and for Seattle, they had all these other picks ahead of them, right? They added all these other pieces to their team. And by the way, added Milroe to the team, where he might have a path to the field in a year if Darnold does collapse. So there's a lot to love about this pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a comp, he's a kind of cross between Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson, right? Like, he's got his running ability is very Justin Fields like. I don't think he's particularly great outside of structure. The accuracy and sort of inconsistency is quite Richardson like, but also like Richardson, I think he's mentally further along than people want to give him credit for. Like, people assume not good passer equals idiot effectively. I think that's a lot of the sort of lazy stereotyping, is you assume if you're not good at it, you're just not very smart. Whereas actually, I think his mental processing and reading is fine. It's just that he makes some bad mistakes, bad decisions, and the accuracy is not always on point. So it's somewhere of a cross between those two guys. He's a tick smaller than either of them, and that's another part of it. But the other big difference is, unlike going, number 5 overall or in the top 15, he's going in the 3rd round, right? So that's the other big difference between those two guys, is he's not going to be expected to start day one. He's going to get the development runway of sitting on the bench. And, theoretically, for a year or two, while Darnold, we figure out what he's going to do with this. But worst case scenario, he's going to be sitting on the bench for a while until they have to, they're forced to bench Darnold and turn to him. It's a good situation for him to be. And again, I'm not saying Richardson or Fields didn't have this, but you have to love his attitude and the way he's sort of presenting himself and going about things. I think that is a character to bet on, as well as the skill set.
All right, man. Seattle in the consensus, they were number 3. It went Patriots, Giants, Seahawks. Number 3 in Renee's consensus here. 3rd highest GPA, grades ranging from A to B. Nobody had below a B. Thor, got to check on Thor all the time. A B plus from Thor on this one. So yeah, a lot of people like Seattle's draft. And again, I think it feels like they added impact players up and down the roster at various positions. And oh, by the way, got one of those developmental quarterbacks who may have the highest upside in Jalen Milroe. So yeah, nice draft from John Schneider and the Seahawks.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.